Good morning, everyone. Derlene Hirtz here with you, Empowered Services. And today in my Unstoppable Expert podcast, I am introducing you to Lindsay Whiting. I met Lindsay on LinkedIn. We were just chit-chatting back and forth. She was from the Bay Area. That attracted my attention. And we continued our conversation, and I find her insightful, intelligent, and very engaging. So I wanted to introduce her to you today and her skills and her craft and what she does, in the possibility that maybe this will be something that you are looking for. And I'm going to go so far as to say, if you are an entrepreneur or business owner, it is a really good idea to have to have a book, and self-publishing has many gifts of gold with it, which we'll discuss for you and your business, because it really allows people to get to know you and on a whole different level than just a business transaction. So I'm going to introduce you to Lindsay today by reading her bio to you. She is a self-published award-winning author who helps writers plan, prepare, publish, and promote their own nonfiction books. Lindsay graduated from the University of Massachusetts in Amherst with a BA in journalism and women's studies, and has specialized in publishing and print production over the course of her decade-long career. In addition to her publishing skills, Lindsay is a collage artist whose art practice has boosted her own creativity and self-development. Her first book, Living into Art, Journey Through Collage, is a story of her journey alongside the stories of 9 other studio artists. Living into Art was named a finalist in Forward's Book of the Year and has also been chosen as an honorable mention in the inspirational category of the annual Writer's Digest International Self-Published Book Awards. Lindsay started coaching and working with other writers when they saw her book. The quality blew them away. When she told them it was self-published, some wanted to learn how to publish their own books. Over the next few years, Lindsay developed the Self-Publisher's Book Plan to create a framework for this process. Lindsay has been a member of American Bestsellers Association, the Bay Area Independent Publishers Association, Publishing Professionals Network, and the National Association of Independent Writers and Editors. So without further ado, Lindsay, welcome aboard the Unstoppable Expert podcast. So glad you're joining us today.
Thank you, Derlene.
Super excited to get to know you and share you with the people that are in my sphere. So tell me first, how'd you get into what you do?
Well, I've been in the printing and publishing industry for decades, and I've worn every hat. I actually got into it when I was at UMass Amherst because I noticed that the college newspaper had no women's sports being written. So I marched down to the office, talked to the sports editor, and next thing you know, I was a journalist, and I was writing women's sports. So that's kind of how I started getting into it. And then I combined journalism with women's studies. And after that, I just got into print and publishing for decades out here on the West Coast. And I just got excited about an art studio that I was involved in. I just went to meet people because I had moved to Sonoma and I really wanted to meet people. So I went to this collage studio and thought, I'll just see what happens. And next thing you know, 6 years later, I ended up deciding that I really had to write a book about this topic because it was so engaging, so life-changing. I really wanted to tell other people about it. And so I got permission from the studio founders, and I interviewed 14 artists, and I put together this book. And this was the first book that I came out with, Living into Art. But this is not a print-on-demand book. This is a custom manufactured full color book. So it's not your usual. I have a lot of bells and whistles in this book, specifically French flaps. That's not your typical book manufacture. It's full color, and all the images, there's 65 color images in here, and they're all color balanced. This was my first collage that I made in class that I loved. It's a woman dreaming a scene from her imagination with horses charging across the top and a book floating in the middle.
Gorgeous.
And I thought, Somebody gave me a brochure for a year-long writing workshop, and that collage combined with that workshop told me that you're going to write this book. Within 3 hours, I knew I wanted to write the book. And when it came out, people were amazed because they hadn't seen self-published books that were full color and so professionally produced. But I did it on purpose because my goal was to show what self-publishers can do at a very high level. Because self-publishing, it has kind of a bad rap because unfortunately, too many people take shortcuts.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't understand what editorial development is and how the big five commercial publishers, do their business. And so it's the type of thing where you really need a lot of education to at least understand and know what's going on with the publishing business before you jump in. And that's why, I say that people need a plan. With the help of today's technology, it's easy to publish a book and it's fairly accessible, but that doesn't mean it's easy. And that's what happens is people think, oh, it doesn't cost much and I can do it like this. And then unfortunately, they don't plan and they don't understand. They think, oh, I've read really good books. You don't walk into a restaurant, a 5-star restaurant, and eat a beautiful gourmet meal and then go home and think you're a 5-star chef. Unfortunately, books are familiar, they're ubiquitous, we grow up with them, we use them, and they seem so friendly, so soft, so lovely. But those books are just the tip of the iceberg. All the other stuff that happens before to create that book, to develop that book, to design that book takes years, usually. I mean, even with a commercial printer, a commercial publishing deal, it's going to take at least 2 years or more, probably, to get into print. When you self-publish, it can be quicker. That's one really good advantage is you can do it more quickly because they have other books they're publishing, they have other authors. And when you self-publish, you're totally focused on your own project. And so if you can plan ahead and move along, you're going to do a lot better than you would if you tried to get a commercial deal because the percentages aren't good. I mean, it's something like less than 1% of all submissions is going to get published. And it's not because of the work. It's not because of the quality of the work. The quality of your writing may be just fine. But publishers are risk averse, a lot like movie studios. They'd rather do sequels and lookalike books and lookalike projects that might just be the next Eat, Pray, Love or the next 50 Shades of Grey. They go after things like social media mavens or hot topics or various things where they feel that they can get their money back. And I don't blame them. I mean, it's a business after all, and it's kind of a crapshoot because nobody, including the CEO of Random House, knows what books are going to sell well unless it's a celebrity book, like Michelle Obama's new book, for instance, or anybody that has a celebrity platform. Mm-hmm. But other than that, it's a fairly risky business. And the other thing that people do, self-publishers do, that I think is also difficult right now is there's been a huge explosion of self-publishing companies and publishing companies that will help you. You pay the money, and then they help you through the system, and your book gets published. I've heard from too many people that they get short shrift from these companies. A lot of times you'll create an account with them and perhaps they'll shepherd you through, but you're not going to be coached. You're not going to be educated, and you're going to get multiple customer service people that just pass you along in the production line. And, I don't want to paint them all with the same brush because there are a lot of very good self-publishing companies out there. But if you don't have a direct referral or recommendation, I would say be careful because I've just seen too many things happen where they just don't put the energy and the time into editing, first of all. They'll just pass anything through. It doesn't matter about the quality or even if it's been edited. The other thing they do is they don't really put a lot of importance on the covers. I have a client this afternoon I'm going to be talking to who went through a self-publishing company. They did her book, and so many months later, she's upset and doesn't know what to do because she can't sell it. She didn't have a marketing plan. They gave her a lousy cover. You can't even tell from the cover or the title of the book what it is.
Oh, wow.
It's unbelievable. It does happen to be a particular kind of a craft that is very popular in India. It's a drawing meditation craft. I forget the name of it. And doesn't even have that on the cover. It does, it has a weird title and it has a little doodle, and you're supposed to know what this is. And she didn't have a marketing plan either. So this is what some of these, and also another self-publishing company did this other crazy thing where all they did was got a stock photo for her cover. And it was awful. It was demeaning. It didn't represent the book. The typography was awful, and they just let it fly. And when you're a new publisher and you don't know what good design is, this is what happens. You get shuttled along in these, I call them book mills.
Yeah.
So caution is needed in these ways. And in my case, I become your project manager. You talk to me. I don't shuttle you around to a million people. You will work directly with your own editor. I'm not a professional editor. I do help you develop your manuscript over a period of 3 months. And then I turn you over to a professional developmental editor who you will work with for another 2 months. So we're talking editorial development here. You just don't fling it out there. You have to work at it to get it up to the benchmark standards of the commercial publishers, because that's who you're going to be compared to, for good or for bad. Nobody cares who publishes the book. Probably people say, oh, my favorite book is ABCD. And you go, wow, who's the publisher? And they go, I don't know. If it's a good book, it's a good book. And that's what you're going for.
This conversation that we had previously was so eye-opening for me. As I shared with you before, I was in a bit of rebellion when I wrote my book. That's where I'm going to go with it is, I felt like my entire life people had told me what to do and what to say and how to say it and what to be and blah, blah, blah. And so when I wrote my book, I'm going to call it a first level editing and then a second level editing. And I should have really invested in getting a professional editing company because, there's parts of it that I would do all the way different now. I mean, it's out there and that's okay. And I would do it so differently. And funny enough, you mentioned the cover, because the cover was something that was super important to me because I definitely wanted it to represent me.
Right.
So it's a picture of me like jumping, like all four jumping high out in nature, because that's the other important piece of my life. And it's I love it. I think it's just gorgeous. And that is very representative of me. And then when I opened the book right off the bat, I'm just like, oh, Derlene, you should have really taken a professional advice on this. And it's still okay, because future books won't be like that. It got to be my learning, and having conversations like this really helps me to be aware. And now all of you guys who are listening, pay attention. This is excellent advice. So
yes, and what the best kept secret in publishing is a developmental editor. Most people have never heard of a developmental editor. And I talked to a woman who's contracting. She used to work for Random House as a developmental editor. Her father doesn't even understand what she does. She told me.
Break that all over for us.
Yeah, developmental editor is before you go to a copy editor. The developmental editor will actually help you, develop your manuscript according to commercial standards. You don't just sit there and come to your keyboard and start randomly writing. You develop your manuscript following a course of comparative title analysis, understanding your market, knowing who your readers are and how you're going to reach them. If you submitted a proposal to a commercial publishing company They would make you include all this information in your proposal. What genre are you in? What books are you competing with? How are you going to win? How are you going to market? And oh, by the way, how much money are you going to put into your marketing plan? They don't pay for all this stuff. Back in the old days, maybe they would, but now nobody pays for this. You're not going to get a lot of money in a commercial contract. And it's really kind of a pain. It's easier to do it yourself, but to follow the commercial standards. And what you'll do is you'll go out there and do a lot of research on your genre. You'll have your own goals and objectives clearly defined. You'll know who your readers are, you'll know how to reach them, and you'll have a comparative title analysis of the top 5 to 10 books in your genre that you're going to be compared to.
Okay.
Now you're ready to start an outline. Then when you do your outline, you write to your outline. Then you go to beta readers so they can give you feedback. You want some kind of feedback. Don't write in a vacuum. Then your developmental editors come in, or your book coaches, and they show you through the outlining template what should be included in your commercial book. There's lots of standards that people need to follow that they may be unaware of. For instance, at the front of the book, you have to tell people what your book is about and why you're the best person to tell them. And you're going to tell them, and you're going to walk them through it, hold their hand. You're going to have a combination of stories and narrative telling. So you've got showing and telling. And a lot of people, don't understand that. They don't know the difference between a narrative explanation or showing it through an example of a story that happened to you in your life, or something you could use as an example. And creative nonfiction writing is all about that. It's all about how you combine the showing and the telling so that the person understands what your thesis is, what your book is about. They trust your authority and your voice, and they'll follow you through. And this is it: voice, structure, organization, transitions, flow, repetitions, summaries. These are the bells and the whistles. You need to have these parts and pieces, and you need to have them working smoothly together. And that's what developmental editors do. And they can bring out your voice. They can identify your voice and help you to bring that out. And they say, you did this really well. This is a natural thing for you. Why don't you do more of it? Or they can say, this isn't working. This might be a better approach. And so they coach you through, they do an evaluation of how it's working as a long form narrative and whether it's going to connect in the marketplace. They give you that feedback, and then, it's back to the drawing board. I had to rewrite. I rewrote this whole manuscript. And one of the biggest things is, are you going to write in third person or first person? Mm-hmm. I talked to a developmental editor about this, and she said more and more books are coming out in first person. That wasn't always true. And it doesn't have to be a memoir. We're not talking memoirs here. We're just talking, nonfiction books about any given topic. A lot of writers are doing first person now. But you can also, I've done third person, I've done first person, and I've also, my second book, which is the book that I wrote that is my publisher's plan. This is all in third person, except for a few stories about my book publishing experiences. And then I have examples of stories that are first person. But the whole book is written in third person. I'm the publishing expert. I'm putting out my information as a third person authority.
That's great.
So, that's something that people have to think about when they're starting. But you know what? You can write your whole book in third person. If you had to go back and change it or vice versa, it really doesn't take that long. But, you want to think about that up front and maybe discuss it with your book coach or discuss it with a developmental editor.
Yeah, I love that. I'm kind of a first person kind of girl, just because I'm a natural communicator like that.
Yep. It comes from the heart when you're doing first person. It's much more immediate.
Definitely. I remember when I like one of the goals, right, of writing my book was I just wanted to get feedback from one person that read this book, a stranger, if you will, and have them say, wow, if you can do it, I can do it. Or wow, this changed my perspective. Or wow, whatever. And I remember I got an email from somebody in Ohio that said just that. And
Excellent.
and I think it was that, well, first person is real, it's raw, it's honest, it's
Immediate.
immediate, and it's not hiding. For me,
Right.
that was a big deal. That was important to me. So I think that's really interesting that you brought that up. What would you say for I really am interested about mindset, as you know. So somebody who is
Mhm.
looking to um write a book for nonfiction, they come to you. What sorts of mindsets do they walk in with? And how do you help them shift the mindset to where it's one of I don't know, workability, lack of a better word?
Coachability.
Well, that is the secret there.
It is. And, what I find is that usually the headset that people, generally speaking, the headset that people come in with is one of willing to learn. They want to learn and they want to write a book.
Mhm.
And so what I try to do is I try to get them to understand that this is a transformative journey and they're coming in as a writer and they're going to leave as a published author.
Right.
And it's kind of like, a lot of like a caterpillar becoming a butterfly because you become a public person. If you weren't public before, you're going to be public now. And it's very interesting because I do see people, even at their early stages, when they're sharing a little bit with family, friends, beta readers, or colleagues, it's good to have that interaction at first, just a little bit of public, feedback, because a lot of them actually get shocked and a little bit upset. It's very emotional for them to have a stranger who may not even be qualified to judge anything say something that's either critical, condescending, dismissive, or whatever it is. It's very painful for a new author, a new writer, to get feedback before they're ready.
Mhm.
This is something that I have found up front is one of the most difficult things for most new writers is to be able to understand and accept critical feedback from professionals. Don't
Mhm.
listen to any old Jill or John or Harry, because that's nothing. That's just noise. You have to find the feedback from the professionals and the people that you trust, that you know understand the book publishing business. The thing is don't take it personally. We're not talking about you. We're talking about the book and the manuscript and how well it's going to live and survive and thrive in the marketplace. Even if you're writing a memoir, the big joke is it's not about you. It's about your readers. It's always about your readers because guess what? If they don't want to read, if you don't want to spend 2, 3, 4, 5 hours with you because they don't like your voice, or they don't need the information you're sharing, you're just not going to get anywhere. So you really need to know that it's going to hit with your readers and make the changes that are necessary. I got a 7-page critique from my art book editor. It wasn't anything like bizarre. She was very kind. And usually the way that people critique is they first give you all the good news, tell you what you did great and right and why it's worthy to continue. And then you go through and have a few fixes or a few suggestions. And then you end the critique with, another positive hit. And so the person isn't totally reeling and on the floor thinking, oh my God, it stinks and I have to redo the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's not, you have to be willing to rewrite.
Right, exactly. There's two things that we always talk about the importance of sandwich feedback, right?
Yeah.
Good improvement, good. And the other thing is that I think so many people take constructive feedback as criticism and failure.
Yeah.
you know, one of the things that I always talk about, my first things that we talk about is that failure is only feedback. That's all it
Right.
is. And when we
And
choose
I
to,
don't even call it failure. I just feel like it's a trial run. I mean, it's iteration. Everything is iteration.
our general brains are trained to see that as failure just out there. You know
Right. I
better.
know.
And
I never do though. I really don't. And I have to tell you why. Because once I got into creativity, I wrote the book on creativity, baby.
there you
And
go.
I can tell you that it's never empty. Being creative and practicing creativity creates more.
Right.
It's sort of like gratitude and love. The more you spew out there into the world, the more there is and the more it comes back.
Yeah.
And that's what creativity is. That's why I get so excited. And for me, yes, I have a journalism background. I can write on deadline and I love to write. So that maybe disqualifies me somewhat, but I find it to be so nurturing, so soul satisfying, such a wonderful thing. If I can set aside a few hours to write, oh my God, that's like heaven on earth. I'm not sitting there tense at the typewriter, at the keyboard. I'm thrilled. I'm like, yay. Even if I don't care if it's good.
Right.
I really don't.
That's
It's,
actually essential to healing on many different fronts.
yes.
It's excellent therapy.
Yeah. It's like even professional writers, famous writers say, I write so I can see what I think.
Ooh, I like
It's a
that.
kind of self-therapy, these morning pages that Julia Cameron talks about. Artists are healed by their art. When I finished my art book and I talked to the studio founders about it, I was like, whatever happens now, I'm good because I got so much soul satisfaction out of writing this book and interviewing the artists and doing the artwork. It was totally immersive. I loved it. I feel complete.
Yep.
The rest of it is all going to be icing on the cake.
Yep. Well, I want to honor your time. So you have given us so much information and you are going to help so many people out there. When someone would like to connect with you, I'm going to put your website, selfpublishersbookplan.com, in the show notes. And what else? Is there anything else you'd like to share out?
Well, I can tell you that I have several levels of service offers. So no matter where you are in the process, whether you're just beginning, you're in the middle, or you're trying to finish up, even if you just want a marketing plan, even if you just want to get started on an outline, there's always a way that I can serve you because I have a lot of different offers at different price points that require different amount of commitment. And if you go to my website, you'll find my signature offer, which is supported self-publishing for writers of nonfiction. And what you get there is a plan. We work on a plan together for your book. It's custom done for your topic, your genre, your book. And then I coach you and support you through to final files until you launch. So at any juncture in the process, I act as your project manager so that you don't miss milestones, you don't miss deadlines, you don't miss referrals, personal referrals to vetted designers and editors and POD printing companies. So you're going to be in with somebody who can successfully guide you through the process and won't leave anything undone. You're going to have a great cover, you're going to have a great story, and you're going to have a marketing plan. Those three things together will bring you to a successful outcome.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you for sharing your wealth of information with us. I am just so thrilled that you made the choice to join me and share out your gifts and your skills with everyone.
Thanks for giving me the time. And I can tell you one last thing is I love what I do.
Yeah, I think that your passion is obvious through your words and your due diligence that you've done in your craft. And I just think that it's super exciting. And I love that your background is from a print background right into self-publishing. That's a perfect marriage in my
Definitely.
my opinion. Yeah,
Also being in the Bay Area where, oh, Adobe, Apple, and everybody else is.
right there.
I beta tested Photoshop when I was in Berkeley in 1989.
Oh my gosh, isn't that so fun?
Yeah, I'm surrounded by it. I mean,
That's neat. Well, thank you so much for your time. And to our listeners, thank you so much for joining us and meeting Lindsay. And I wish you all the best in your self-publishing adventures. And now you have an excellent connection to make that happen. Thank you.